Hey, I thought I'd do a roundup video because I haven't done these in a while because I'm just really bad at scheduling stuff. Yeah, we had the first weekend of set six has happened now, so we get to see all of the what people are running that weekend. I think it's always interesting. There's an event I always check called Battle Bear. It's a store in Germany. Artifacts usually plays it, and that usually, in my mind, kicks off the set when I see it, and I get to see the results and stuff like that. It's great to see what everyone's testing. Sort of what everyone's finding exciting because I think that it has to be starting to mention that going from set 5 to set 6, there's no reason why Green Steel and Ruby Sapphire are going to be bad decks or fall out of the meta. They haven't fell off. They're very good. In a sense, some of them even got just more tools to play with and better cards. But the first weekend, people are going to be testing different decks. Green Purple's got a really interesting look to it this set. There's loads of different ways you can build that. It looks very powerful. It looks like it's going to jump up a few tiers. Blue still got a lot of toys, so like people who previously would have liked Blue Steel but maybe dropped off the deck because of whatever reason, because it just wasn't feeling that strong in set 5, might be back to try and test it again. But it's just good to see what people are building and see what cards worked, and especially over these sort of 50 to 70 people events, you can really get an idea of maybe the direction that the meta is going to go in. So yeah, the first one I always look at, like I say, is Battle Bear. Artifacts ended up winning it. I believe he posted on Twitter he had a perfect score. So that's just awesome. Yeah, and as I say, green purple is really showing its prevalence in. I mean, that's the green steel, the green purple. That's the green purple goat. But of course, it's just showing how prevalent it is, especially as a deck that's been struggling because of its matchup into green purple. It's got a whole new way to sort of just tackle the meta really with a lot of its cards. So yeah, I think it's really cool. But of course, I mainly just cover blue steel. I don't really want to look at that list and say what works and what doesn't because I don't know what works and what doesn't. So I've got a few blue steel lists over a few events that I thought are worth mentioning. So this one got top 8 in that. It was a 47 person event. I thought it was really cool. It's very much like what you'd expect from a wheel list. It's a very toolbox list. I think it's interesting amount of ramp they've got here. I'm assuming they just want to jump to Tamatoa as soon as they possibly can. And then on their way there, they've got Smash, Fire the Cannons, and I'm going to talk about Calhoun in a second, and even Kuzco to just base it and let it go, grab your swords. Basically, say I'm just going to slow you down, I'm going to kill your board, and then I'm going to ramp to my Tamatoa and win the game with that thing on board. Which, like I say, it's pretty cool way to play the game, and it's pretty common. Interesting that Wheel was focusing on Tamatoa as we've seen a lot of Wheel versions go less and less in their Tamatoa play and more towards aerial and other ways to win the game. Maybe flooding and playing a Pete aerial. Pete and a dime is just a winning combo to have in hand, especially if you could get that early lore. But yeah, I don't think this is far off what we'd usually see, and you can see how much is packed in there, even with all of that ramp options as well. I'm assuming there's quite a lot of cards in this deck, maybe over 60, but I should have checked that before I started recording, but we haven't. But yeah, like I say, it's very standard. It's just taking things from set 6 that we sort of know are quite good. Like Sail is arguably just a good card. Calhoun, it hasn't tried to rebuild Blue Steel as a wheel. You've still got two dimes in there, still got the whole new worlds. You know, it's just very standard wheel, but there's a lot of upgrades in there, and they're really taking advantage of them. So I think this is really cool. And Calhoun, I've haven't managed to put her into a no wheel list, which is what I'm sticking with, and I'll cover my list right at the end. But I just realised how good she is as the sort of counter to the turn 1 and 2, especially like a purple 1 drop, like a Chernobog's followers, where it's very hard to deal with a Smee because if you kill it, they basically kill your Smee as well. But with Calhoun, you get to kill it and you get 2 lore, and you've only put 1 damage on it, and it has the resist, and it's just. I think it's a real powerhouse of a card. So I think in wheel lists, 100% that card just goes in there. With no wheel, I'm struggling a little bit because I just didn't want that much room dedicated to uninkable 2 drops that you're probably going to keep in your opener, send things back, and then you get back more uninkables and you end up being in a really rough spot. But overall, I think the card's just really, really good, and it definitely has a home in Blue Steel. And I've seen some builds as well, we away from the Cheater, but I'll cover that as well after that. But yeah, like I say, just taking from set 6 that we know is going to be pretty solid, like Sail has just been a very good card. You get the Ready Ink as well. So you're even able to sail on 2, fire the cannon something, and then on the next turn play like a Hiram or something like that, just to keep your game plan going. So yeah, I just think it's really good. And of course, just you implementing and using the steel package to take out anyone who's trying any new sort of mid-range and aggro decks is really cool. This has got so much ramp as well. I'd imagine you could do right into red blue as well, not lose that matchup as hard as some of us sometimes do. I could really see a game plan of Smee on 2 questing and then start just using all of your ramp options to start throwing towers on the board and the aerials as well. So yeah, I think it's a really cool list. I definitely think it's sort of blueprinting what we're going to see in set six of Blue Steel. There was another event as well. It's a 71 person event, and it just looked awesome, so I thought I'd check it out. There's two lists in here I want to mention. And actually, the list that won, I did tweet about it. It was the one using the, I'll just click on it quickly, Floodborn Tinkerbell, which I'm a very much a big fan of tribal decks in TCGs. So I just think that this is a really cool deck. I mean, utilizing all of the fairy, I think she basically gives your fairies +1 questing power. So it was really cool to see that come out on top. Just to see a kind of a new deck. I mean, Purple Steel's had so many directions with it. It was just really interesting to see that finish with a very decent score as well. But there's two Blue Steel lists in here that I really want to mention, and the first one I'm going to mention is exactly what I thought someone might do, and they ended up getting top 16, I believe. Yeah, top 16, and they just basically took the Moyen's top 64 list, Moyen and Sky's list from Seattle, and I think all they did was change the Mickey Mouse for sale, which is I'll admit the first thing I did in testing was that, and then I was like, great, we're gonna have another set of me not having many new cards, just sale. But honestly, I think you could just do that. I think if you want to play at your locals or you want to play at any sort of event that's got some importance to you, some winner cases, winner whatever. I think that generally you could just do that. Just take Mickey Mouse out and put Sail the Azurite Sea in here because the list is very much the same. It's 100% the same. It's just sale has been swapped out, which is yeah. The first thing I wanted to do, just lifetime upgrades of cards we know are generally going to be quite good in the meta, so we just swapped them out and put them in. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting that someone did that and managed to get a fairly decent score from yeah, top 16 out of 71, which I take that. It's very good for such a small change to the list and just not trying to do much no, I'm not, I don't know how this is wording it badly. I think it was really cool what they did. Yeah, they've just upgraded from set 5 to set 6 and they know what worked in set 5, so they're just going to keep playing those things that worked and put some lifetime upgrades. And now maybe after this event you might see how other cards may be good. You might go, oh wow, there's another person play a Calhoun and that was really good for Blue Steel, so maybe I'll start using Calhoun as well. But yeah, I think just doing those lifetime upgrades or that sort of from set 5 to set 6 card that objectively would be better in the slot or objectively looks like it would be better in the slot, just including that and getting a pretty good finish. So this was another list that got higher. I believe this was top 8. Sorry, I'm clicking around so much. Yeah, top 8, so one bracket higher, which is still really good. And they're utilizing some cool cards in here. I like this. It's just there's lots going on here. I like Blue Steel lists that have lots going on here, and it's just the more I look at it, the more interested and excitingly things is. Of course, you've got the double dime finish, just standard all there. Got a Hades, got a Wreck-It Ralph to start dealing with the board. Tinkerbells, Aerials, Four Towers again. There you go. Here's a Cheater as well. So it's unlikely that I'd want to keep a Calhoun because sometimes this is where I'm trying to get with No Will is I'm probably going to want to be cheatering on two if I've got it. If I've got a cheater and a Calhoun, it's like how do I get the Calhoun out of my hand? I have to now find the Quill because if I want to use Sell the Azurite Sea, I can't exactly ink the Calhoun. And then at some point I just have to play her on the board if I can't get her out of my hand. But yeah, that's just me overthinking that situation. But this list is really cool. Pleakley is a card that I just haven't looked at because I just didn't think too much of it. But someone mentioned if you Jim Hawkins and then shift and then do his work and then say it's a turn where you know he's going to die or something like that because you just know he's exerted or he's just a free trade, you can Bleakly and put him into your Inkwell for 2 ink, which I think is really cool. So maybe yeah, just keeping it as a 2x or something like that, just for that scenario would be really cool. I don't think you play it on curve because if you were to do something like Jim Hawkins, Pleakley, you know down the Jim Hawkins or Cheacher, Pleakley or down those characters. But getting to dump both those characters to your Inkwell and saying like, well, you can't have the free trade anymore. I've got a free 4 and I've got these characters in the Inkwell. That's how I would end up playing it. But it'd be really interesting to see how the player went about navigating using Pleakley, or if they just ended up inking it every game and realizing that they didn't really want to play Pleakley in the end. It's just they got so far into the event. And that's something else to mention, that there can be a 1 or 2x of a certain card. And you think it's really good, or oh wow, they've done really well in their event and they included this certain card, but it's like yeah, in Lorcana you can ink cards, so it could have just been that they inked that card every game and now they after the event they're like, I really wish I didn't run that card. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but sometimes that is what happens with lists, so we really have to take everything with a pinch of salt here and just understand sort of what actually might have happened. Pluto as well, I think, has been shining a lot of people's lists. I think Pluto will go into that same bracket that sort of Argus and Lawrence went into, where I think in the end Argus was pretty much an include in everyone's deck, but there was a lot of one jump ahead builds that run Lawrence as well, and I don't know, he just feels like he goes into that bracket of there's just so much value by playing Pluto. He's a very good card, but does he always fit your curve? Is he always going to be good? Who's to say? I think with Resist and the Porpsicles, Resist from Cogsworth and the Porpsicles, he fits this deck a lot better than other steel decks, especially as you can recycle and keep them going. Especially maybe Steel Song, probably their Rapunzel is a lot better. But yeah, I think that card will end up being a 2x in some lists. I think when you play into a blue steel, always be thinking they might be playing a Pluto down. It's the same way that Chiempo works. It's just a really decent bodyguard. It's one cheaper, keeping freeing up your 5-drop slot for things like Jim Hawkins. But yeah, I think that card's around to stay at a certain capacity for a lot of blue steel players, and I know a lot of people online are impressed by the card as well. Stats wise, it's hard to not be impressed by it. I'm just thinking if you go Quill, if you were to do Cheecha Quill, throw Pluto down and maybe do something else with the other two ink, like another 2-drop, or start playing your Porpsicles and fire the cannons, that's not a bad turn. It's just after the Cheecha Quill, I'm getting one card draw from Cheecha, but I still just want to be getting more card draw, so I tend to put a Hiram down. Or if I'm not putting a Hiram down, I want to win board harder, I tend to throw a Tinkerbell down, which in my head just feels a lot better than putting a Pluto and then doing something else to the other two ink. But then there's the instance of you're not always going to be hitting Tinkerbell or Hiram, and it's just another good body to have on the board, and it's the bodyguard as well, which can protect your aerial. So later on in the game, if you want a quest of aerial, you can now set up Pluto. So I think there's just loads of versatility and usability with that card. So I think it's definitely going to stick around on people's lists. So yeah, I was excited to see that make some lists as well. The last one I've got is from Wojciech, who anyone who hangs out in 20 lore knows who that guy is. Lovely guy. I really like the guy. And he posted this list, and it really intrigued me. It was a no-wheel list using no teacher, but you were utilizing Alice, and you could do things like protect the beast, which I thought was just really cool. And I think Alice's versatility is not just protecting tragic beast; it's protecting so many other things, and it's just can put your board into unwinnable, like unbeatable locked states where you could get your Tamatoa safe. With no Hades and stuff like that, and only one dime, I do struggle to see how you beat red blue. But maybe you could just take this list and adapt it, and or maybe you could play into red blue enough times and say where your weak spots are, and probably are missing Hades or Let It Go or Lucky Dime. But yeah, just I think this is really cool. This is definitely one I've wanted to test out because it's Nowhere, which is a list I'm really excited about. And it's just a different direction without the cheater. And this list as well allows you to utilize putting Calhoun on too, which, like I said, I really want to play Calhoun. So this list has won me over by I really want to test it. I think this is a cool direction for Blue Steel. He's one of the really, really great Steel Song players as well, and he's saying even the matchup's very close. Of course, he's going to favour Steel Song in that matchup when he looks at it anyway, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't blame him. But he's saying it's close now, which is just strange because yeah, I think we've things like Jim Hawkins to take out the Daisy, Calhoun to make it so you don't really fall that far behind on lore when you start trading for things, Alice to protect, Pluto to keep you bodyguarded and doing awesome trades, that 4 attack. Tragic Beast would be awesome. Into Steel Songs, you probably don't need a particularly large amount of card draw because, of course, you're going to get wheeled at some point in that game. That's just always what's going to happen. But yeah, I think I can just keep seeing some really nice lines here, and I really like the idea of utilizing Alice and making a whole new deck. Not a whole new deck, but taking the direction of Blue Steel and taking it the direction with Alice instead of just having a right. If it's on wheel, it's going to be having XYZ cards. If it's on no wheel, it's going to be having Cheater and XYZ cards. So it's like, oh, but could it be a Calhoun Alice no wheel list? And I think that's another thing to mention with Lorcana, how many cards we're getting now and how big the card pool is. We definitely could see just loads of different variants of decks. Ink Steel card play Porp on turn 1. Of course, right now we're thinking, is it no wheel, is it wheel? But, if it's ink play Cheater on 2, we're thinking, oh, it's no wheel, it's not wheel. But, if we do ink and play Calhoun, it's like, is it the no wheel variant? Or I just think it's going to be really interesting, the direction that the game's going to go in with how many more card pools there are, how many more creative decks there can be. Loads of cards that objectively aren't bad, they just might not make your cut in your list. Calhoun is definitely one of those cards where it's like objectively just a good card, but is it going to make the cut as an uninkable card in every list? And I think that's just a really exciting place for the game to be in. And I'll just finish off with where my list is at. Hopefully that's big enough on the screen. I'm sorry if it's not. I'll try to zoom in. Yeah, like I say, I've just basically taken from the Sky Moyen no wheel list and just put some upgrades in there, or not even upgrades. There's not even a set 6 card in there. But all I've done is I've tried to manage around the uninkable space. That's mainly because I just test an abundant of games, and if you test enough games, you're going to remember all those games that you brick, and you're going to hate those games. So I just put one Tipo in there and took a Mickey out, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And we put two Robin Hood in there, and that was mainly because the Genie card in our testing has been the most important thing. I feel like I can handle everything in the meta. My red blue matchup never feels that bad. I don't mind this new Maui Shark build. I feel it's not as good as our list. I feel we can take that and beat that. And then Steel Song didn't really change much. They just got some new things in here. But the purple decks like Purple Steel, and actually even RP as well, and Green Purple that are utilizing the 2/4 Evasive Genie, it's just really running circles around me. So the first thing I went to test was putting Robin Hood in. So it was, Cheetah Quill ramp, throw Robin Hood on the board and say deal with it however you want. Is it going to be Zeus or is it going to be Elsa, exert, hit it, or whatever it's going to be. But there's going to be a 4 attacker now that can take out your genie, and if not, you've still got the magic broom, grab your swords, fire the cannons, and you can just steal maths and add up and take it out. But it was nice to be on top of that, say, and here's this 4/4 that can just basically trade with your genie or take it out and make it really awkward, and then you could port heal it. And the other reason why I kind of like the Robin Hood over any of the other evasive choices was if you went Cheetah Quill and you miss, like, say, Tinkerbell, you throw Robin Hood down, and this Robin Hood also gives you a card draw if you have less cards in hand than your opponent, which you tend to do if you're going to be quilling. So, yeah, I just found it really fun. I don't think the card will stick around. Maybe it won't stick around. We'll see. I've just been enjoying it right now, and as the meta's so up in the air, I feel there's no real bad choices. Just testing is always good, and just trying new things out. We put two Hades in there as well. We went back up to two because it's just like everyone trying out these new cards, and I don't blame them. So things like Maui Shark, which if we didn't have Hades in the list would kind of be awkward to remove at 5 health character. I don't really want to jump to using Zeus just yet. I really want to wait around until I have to play Zeus basically. But in such a green meta, I just don't feel that excited to put Zeus back in the deck. But yeah, Hades is just taking out any of these big fun characters, even that purple Floodborn Tinkerbell that I mentioned. That's pretty good. Just take it out. Anything that just basically look at and we go, I don't like that being on board. I just want to put it in the Inkwell and then continue on doing my dime tap towers and stuff like that. So yeah, we've basically just upped on the removal, stayed true to the game plan of Tamata, Diamond, Aerial, and the list's been doing fine, performing in testing groups and stuff like that. As I say, when I do last chance qualifiers and stuff like that, maybe won't be how the list ends up looking. But right now, it's been really nice to feel out the meta and know that I have answers for everything that I'm commonly seeing in the meta as well. So a big body evasive on the board's nice. I would like to take the Mickey and the Tipple out and put back in Sail, but I just had maybe one too many games where Sail has just drawn me into um, you'll ink a card and then draw a card, but the card you drew is an uninkable, and then the next turn it'll be like the only inkable in your hand is your Hiram, and that's the card you don't want to ink. And then on turn you draw an uninkable again, and it's in this really rough spot that happens quite frequently. But maybe I just need to suck it up and keep playing with Sail, because Sail is objectively just a really good card. And if I was to take the Mickeys out, we'd go down to 15 uninkables. So maybe that'll be the play. Maybe two Sails and one Tippo. I don't know. At this point, we've got so many alternative ramp options. It's not like it used to be where it was like, do you want to play one jump ahead or do you want to play Mickey? So like you've got Tippo, you've got Sail now. You've got so many options. I don't blame people for having lists such as this one that has like you just multiple ramp options, because you can play with them all and they all objectively have their reasons why they're good. Getting a uninkable that you don't want out of your hand, drawing a card, just a song you can maybe sing it on the turn. There's just objectively good reasons why you could use all of these ramp options. But yeah, these are sort of my thoughts after that first week and weekend, and set 6 looks really exciting, not just for Blue Steel but for the game in general.